Here. Yo, but for real, like, I want to love life as much as DJ Khaled does. Do you know, like, that dude literally, like, he probably literally wakes up every day and is just like, I don't know. And it's just like, God blessed me with this day, you know? That's how he wakes up every single day. Man, she was a handful on the walk at first. That was, man, just like once she was like going for something, she was going for something. Yeah. Sure. So a lot of work on that, obviously.
Nothing going wrong, she's fine.
Yeah, yeah. Like as soon as she wanted to go for something though, and she's so strong. Whew, there were a couple times she would just go and it's like your shoulders like getting like ripped out of your arm. So what I'm gonna do in a minute here is I'm gonna bring her on in. Initially, just try to ignore her. We're gonna keep the energy level real low. My only expectation of her when I bring her in is that she's not jumping or anything, and I'll be correcting her for that and everything if she does. And then once she's doing good with that, we'll kind of start getting into some of the training and everything. So let me go grab her real quick and we'll get cruising.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Too excited.
Playing outside, don't you? Yeah. You like that. Like that. Yeah.
So let her get her wiggles and stuff out of her system here. So like I said, only criteria here is no jumping. If she does any jumping, I'm just gonna be telling her no and giving her a correction with the e-collar. All right, Lil. Get your leash here. Let's get started. All right. So we're gonna start running through some commands here. So it's gonna be fairly straightforward. We're gonna be using a combination of obviously our e-collar to enforce things, as well as I have some of her food here to reinforce when she's doing it correctly. We like to use the balance approach of telling her when she's doing incorrect, but also when she's doing correct, obviously, right? Obviously, she's not contingent on the food. She'll still do this stuff regardless of if she has it or not, but we usually recommend first week or so that you use as much reinforcement as possible through the training process. So we're gonna start off with our bed stays here. That simply means once I give you the bed command, get onto one of the beds, stay there until you're told otherwise. So I'll walk her on over here. Come on. Bed. Give that bed command. Good. Once she gets on, I'll tell her good. Give her a reward for that, obviously. And then drop the leash and leave her there. We're not using like a stay command or anything. Stay is built into all our commands. So if I tell her bed or down or this or that, it's obviously expected that she stays there until she's told otherwise. So we'll just have her hold this for a minute or so. It's a very happy dog.
The love beast.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Just had to get you listening a little bit better. Good. And then whenever I want to let her off, okay. Okay is our release word.
Okay.
Come on. Bed. Good. So we'll just work this a couple of times here. Now with these bed stays or down stays or anything like that, it's expected obviously she holds these for like pretty prolonged periods of time. So we've done exercises where we've had her hold a bed stay for like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, stuff like that. So typically I'll use this command like if I have like guests come over the house or I just need to like get her out of the way for a little bit or something like that. Okay. As opposed to needing to like physically put her away somewhere. Bed. Good. Good. You know, I think some of it also, she's got like a little bit of like an insecure streak to her sometimes. Like you could tell some things really, really spook her. And I definitely noticed in some cases, like when she would get startled by something, that's when she was like the most uncontrollable, you know? So we taught her how to work through some of that kind of stuff. Gotta get that paw up there.
In the neighborhood.
Yeah.
There was a long ornament.
Yep.
A buffalo.
Yeah.
She would not cross the
Sure.
The street.
Yep.
Anything else, it just stopped right there. It was an iron thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we would see some of that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, she saw something new or weird. Like she, just like very apprehensive of it. So. Good. Okay. Bed. Good. You know, training is cool because it helps us work through those types of situations, not by necessarily making her like not scared of those things, but it helps her look to us more when she gets scared. You know what I mean? Because we're giving direction through these things. If she gets startled by something going on out there, you know, instead of just hopping off that bed and taking off, she knows she still has to focus in on what we're asking her to do. So it doesn't allow her to like cycle into those really anxious head spaces.
So you didn't use her medicine for the anti.
I'm pretty sure she was.
stuff?
I'm pretty sure she was I'll have to double check. The kennel staff usually handles that stuff. They do the medication in the morning and in the evening.
I'm wondering if she's
Yeah.
off it or not.
What was it for again?
Anti-anxiety.
Oh, it was the anxiety. Yeah. So we did not give her that.
Okay, good.
Yeah, she did not need that.
Excellent.
Yeah, we're pretty strict on, we try to avoid giving that kind of stuff unless we absolutely need to post-training, because 9 out of 10 times when it comes to a lot of the medications that dogs are on, they're training-related problems more than they are medicine problems, you know?
Right.
And I'm not saying it doesn't have its purpose and stuff, like obviously it does, but most of the time it's like we prescribe these medications because the dog is pulling, right? Or because the dog is not able to focus in because they're distracted by something, where it's like, that's just training, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you can take your time with these repetitions here. The important part with the bed stay is not necessarily does she get onto it really quickly, but it's can she hold it for prolonged periods of time. So let's let her just chill there for a minute or so here and let her kind of settle into that position. And you were, earlier you were asking her to lay down on the bed. It's not wrong to do that, but initially as you're working on these commands, I try to isolate them one at a time. So doing bed and down, that would be a combination, right? Which we'll get into, but right now we're just worried about getting onto that bed here. And then one last point with it, try to avoid calling her off of the bed from afar, because same deal, that's a combination too. We're doing bed and come, which isn't wrong,
Okay.
but right now we're trying to keep it nice and easy for her. Perfect. Yeah, look great. And the same deal, we'll just let her hold that for a minute or so here. Yeah, it's funny with dogs like her that are like really high energy and really motivated and stuff like that, the getting onto the position, that's always the easy part for them. It's practicing the impulse control of like, let's slow down here. And notice she put herself into that down, which is a good sign.
Right.
You know, as opposed to us telling her down, that's a barometer for us that we could look at if she's settling. You know what I mean? So a lot of this kind of stuff, like as far as these types of commands and stuff, one big thing that I recommend is like once a day do like a 10-minute session with just the food, you know, where you just kind of work through some of the motions of this kind of stuff. And with her, I think a lot of what you're going to be leveraging with her is that motivation kind of relationship that you have with her, you know, like with those downs and stuff, it's kind of just a patience game of just consistently rewarding that down when she gets into position. You know, we're not going to be super firm on the corrections for that just yet. Here, I want to just get her just understanding, because really as far as those downs are concerned, that's not her blowing you off, that's her just like figuring it out.
Yeah.
You know, because obviously she's doing it pretty well with me, but that's just because she's used to doing it with me.
Every day. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's just going to take, you know, a little bit of time to develop that. So what we're gonna do next here is I wanna work a little bit more duration with her. We're gonna test the distractions a little bit more with it and stuff, make sure she's staying nice and focused in around that, and then we'll get into some walking and stuff, and kind of go from there. Do you walk her a lot at home?
I do.
You do?
Couple miles a day.
Couple miles? Oh, great, awesome.
Yeah, the first 15 minutes,
Yeah.
you have to let her run somewhere.
Understood, yeah.
And then she'll walk.
Yeah, okay, cool.
So, yeah.
Great, yeah, no, that's awesome. So we'll definitely get into some walking and stuff here then.
Okay.
So, cool. All right, Lily, come. Down. Good. Now another thing to keep in mind, to the best of your abilities here, try to when you give that initial command, let it breathe for a minute also, as opposed to constantly down, 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 down. Because in a lot of cases, if we give it one time and then we just kind of wait for a minute, she's gonna kind of connect those dots and put it together just like she did right there. Exactly. Where sometimes if we're constantly giving a cue, it can almost confuse them a little bit more because they're constantly waiting for the next thing we're saying and they don't have time to really process and think about what they need to do, right? So that'll help you a little bit as well. So what I'm going to do is just kind of practice walking to the door here, opening it up, making sure she's holding it obviously, and then going back to her. Good. Okay, come on. Down, same deal, giving the cue and just waiting for a minute here. Good. Good. Okay, come on. Nice. Very good. Let's see if we can get two more. Couple big things that you're going to be working on over the next couple weeks with her. Obviously, you're walking. You do that already, so that's not going to be too crazy difficult for you to implement. Biggest thing is just enforcing your structured walking with things. Now, if you're taking her out and she needs to go to the bathroom and stuff like that, obviously let her go at the beginning of the walk, then start enforcing it. Or what you could do is structure out your walk where you start off with making her nice and kind of healing with you like that. Somewhere in the middle, you give her a chance to go to the bathroom, and then you end with the healing again. Something like that. The key with it is you just want to be black and white about the expectation. Either she needs to stay focused on you, or she's totally free to do what she wants to do, right? The second we start kind of blending the two a little bit, it gets really confusing for her, and then it gets messy. So, like I said, she's got a good temperament. It's not like anything she's doing is malicious, and frankly, you can tell, she clearly likes you, right? So really, the point of the corrections here are really for those situations where you notice she's just getting too out of control. You know what I mean? To set that boundary and set that tone with things. I always say, look at your e-collar like either your invisible leash or like an electric fence, right? It's there to set a perimeter that she could then avoid, right? So whether it's a come command, whether it's your leash walking, those are the two primary places you're going to be using it, obviously. You set that boundary of, once you get to this point, this is where the correction happens, so she understands how to avoid that moving forward, right? You're gonna use it in situations when she's blowing you off, obviously, as well, like if you're asking for commands and stuff, but if you're working her for the food and stuff, that's primarily just gonna be the food. Try to really ask yourself, like, you know, is she blowing you off or is she just confused? Like with the downs we were working on, she was just confused with those, right? So it didn't need corrections and stuff for that. It just needed a little bit of patience in working her through it. But on the contrary, there's been times when I've been working with her and whatever, a dog walks by or something, and she's just like glued on that thing. That's where we use it to interrupt that state of mind, obviously, right? So obviously walking is gonna be the one thing that you do this next week with her every day. Excuse me. Second thing you're gonna be doing is one like 10 to 15 minute long short training session a day with her. That's primarily gonna be for the food. Usually what I recommend is pick one of her meals, whether it's breakfast or dinner, and just do it with that. Instead of feeding it out of a bowl, do a little training session with her, you know, work on some of your commands, and, you know, pick one or two of them, you know. Let's say the downs, since that was kind of her sloppiest one today, your next couple days, maybe you just work downs. You know what I mean? Just work on that until she seems to be getting in the hang of it. Then once those look good, all right, maybe we'll do some bed stays. And then incrementally, exactly, incrementally challenge them, things like the doorway, right? Things like going in the fridge to get something, anything that would typically be a distraction to her, start testing those commands around those types of things. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly, right? Any of that kind of stuff. The last thing you're gonna do is you're gonna try to do like a long bed stay once a day, right? So like I talked about, she could hold that for like 30 to 45 minutes. Yeah. Same concept, put her onto it and just have her hold that for a more prolonged period of time. And incrementally throughout it, as she's doing well, you could add some rewards. And then also if she starts getting distracted and going off, you could use your e-collar to give a correction if she's breaking command, right? Past just that, obviously training your commands and stuff like that, that's a very small percentage of your day, right? When you're working with her and stuff like that, you're gonna be using those commands. But outside of that, there's gonna be a lot of times she's just hanging out, right? So when she's just hanging out in the house, would she get into things, chew at stuff, excessive barking out the window, anything like that you'd notice that you don't like?
She'll bark if some kids are playing on the street. Yep. Or a couple cats next door. She has 6 eventually, now
oh, wow.
Down to 3.
It's a little easier than 6.
Unless they're fighting or something like that.
Yeah.
She just watches.
She minds her business with them.
They watch her and they watch her.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so it's, yeah. That's not bad.
That's really about it.
If she can chase the cat, she will.
Yeah.
But she wouldn't know what to do with the cat. Then she comes back.
Yeah, sure.
And you walk at night, in the evening, the kitties are right, maybe 15 yards.
Sure.
Stalkers. and she's used that, so, you know, it's just, you know.
And she does pretty good with that, or does that really distract her much?
Pretty good with that.
Pretty good with it?
Now, we
Lily, no.
Close to the house, then she's more prone to go after the cats.
Yeah, for sure.
But they stay in the yard, basically.
Yeah, I got you.
And they go up the tree, and she's lose interest.
Yep. Okay, cool. Well, any of those things, if you determine it's something you don't want to do, I always say, you know, the rules that you set, there's not any ones that you have to set necessarily. They're up to you, right? So like the only ones I really recommend, obviously, are jumping. I'm not a fan of jumping, obviously. I personally am not a fan of like excessive barking, like when guests are coming over and stuff like that, just because I think it's a nuisance to the people coming in. So things like that I typically recommend setting boundaries for. But as far as like getting on furniture and all that kind of stuff, like I don't care. You know, that's up to you, you know?
I always had allowed to be in a furniture, bed, stuff like that.
As long as it doesn't present an issue, you know, as long as it's not like when people come over, she's just like, you know, can't contain herself and stuff like that, then I don't have an issue with it.
She might.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
She loves people, but she doesn't know how to react.
Yeah.
Or act, or whatever. You know?
Yeah, 100%. And one thing to keep in mind is like when I first let her in, like when you first got here, how she was really trying to jump up into your lap and stuff, and I was just monitoring it. I had the e-collar. Anytime she did it, I gave a correction for it, and then she stopped, right? So you just got to keep those things in mind, like when you have guests come over, for example. Anytime people are coming over, this should be on her, your level, and we'll go over how to set the level and stuff in a minute here, obviously. But you should just be ready, right? The second those paws hit a person, tap.
Okay.
right? The second they hit a person, tap. And if you're consistent about setting those boundaries for those things, you'll see that go away so fast.
Yeah.
You know, really, like, you coming here, this is the first time she's really been jumping in like weeks, because we've been consistent about addressing it every single time, right? And obviously you're like the highest distraction to her, which is the only reason why she started doing it again, you know? So as long as you're consistent about setting that boundary, same deal.
Yeah, I don't want her back to go back.
Of course.
To the bad habits.
Yep. Yeah. And you just got to stay on top of them, you know? And also, like, getting back to, like I said, expectations, these next couple days, she's going to push her buttons a little bit with stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
she's a strong-willed dog for sure, and she's definitely an opportunist, right? So when she knows she can get away with something, she's going to try to get away with it.
Yeah.
So you just got to be prepared for that kind of stuff, which is why, again, anytime you're working with her, the e-collar should be on, right? You should be almost anticipating the problems. Like, when you take her for a walk, like when you get home, right? You should expect she's going to try to be all over the place, and just be ready to address it the second that she does.
Stop her right there.
Exactly,
Well,
right? Yeah, as long as you're consistent about it, you know? So, that's really gonna be the key for this kind of stuff. And then from there, you know, especially in your position, you just gotta see over the next week or so here, where do you need to implement this stuff into your life? Because like here, obviously, we're just working on teaching stuff, so we're using it all the time, right? We're doing bed stays and down stays and this and that all the time, but that's not real life, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like you have to do 9 million commands at home with her, right? So you gotta figure out where are the problematic areas and what of my training can I implement to stop that thing, right? And it's really ever going to be one of two things. One, just stopping the problem, like jumping or something where we just correct for it. Or two, managing the problem, which is where we would like temporarily have her hold a bed or a down or something like that to prevent her from rehearsing the issue. It's always going to be one of those two things, right? So just keep those things in mind with this, obviously. Sadie, come. Down. Good. Come. Down. Good. Come. Down. Good. Sadie, come. Come on. Good job. Good job. Good job. Sadie, down. chose to wait her out on that repetition as opposed to give a correction. She's obviously crushing it. She's had a lot of success there. Just a little bit of confusion. Try to know, you know, before you give a correction for something, try to know, is your dog actually blowing you off, or are they just a little confused and need a little bit of time to process that information you gave them? So in that case, obviously she did well with it. No. Obviously in this case, she jumped the gun. Come on, Sadie. Let's go. Down. Good. Second takeaway point from this, obviously I was away from her, right? We're working in a large area right now, so I can't be right next to her all the time. That's the point of doing this. So if she makes a mistake from afar, if I'm all the way over here and she gets up out of that down preemptively, I could mark with no from afar and give my correction. And at that point, regardless of what she does, it's my job to go back and then fix her. So I walked all the way back over to that spot to get her then stabilized back into position. Because, you know, at least not, I understand you can do like, you know, downs from a distance and sits from a distance and stuff like that. But we're doing functional obedience. We're trying to get a couple of things really good as opposed to work a ton of stuff, even right now. No. So marked with no, gave a correction, and see how she's coming to me, anticipating that recall on the correction? That's because when we're away, she knows the picture of come to me. So what I'm gonna do, come on, Sadie. So I'm gonna take her all the way back. Down, and then reset her back into position. Again, giving her a minute here. Good. And trying again. One thing about our no marker, just like any other mark, is it's a terminal marker, meaning it terminates whatever we're working on when we give it with our correction. So the second I say no and correct for something, whatever we were just working on is done. There's no expectation of her fixing herself until I re-give a command. So I'm going to give her the best possible information possible by walking back to position, showing her the picture she's used to of me giving that down when I'm near her, so that I increase the chances of success with this. All right, guys, so we're getting ready to socialize Riley here. So Riley is board and trained, obviously. She's been here for almost 2 weeks now, I think. So she's about halfway through the program. Here for really serious dog reactivity issues. Those dog reactivity issues have resulted in the owner not really being able to socialize her very much because she's just so freaking intense, which is a common problem. It doesn't necessarily mean that she's an aggressive dog. And we've confirmed that it actually does not mean that she's an aggressive dog. But with her energy level, how intense she could be about playing and stuff like that, it could definitely off-put the wrong dog because she's been under-socialized. So, you know, these are typical German Shepherd problems, obviously. They're a very difficult to handle breed. They don't handle restraint very well. So the second you start shortening that leash up as they're younger and they start learning they want to get to things and then they develop a little bit of territorialness over the house and stuff like that, everything can get really, really out of control really, really quickly. Luckily, she has a really, really sweet temperament and disposition, like as we've started to add some training into the mix and get her focused in and stuff like that. So basically our socialization process with her is we are starting off on muzzle every time we introduce her to other dogs so that we can let her just like let some of that energy out of her system, let her learn some of those cues as the other dogs kind of try to discipline her for being too much. And we can do that in a safe and controlled way until we really, really, really iron out like kind of exactly who she is from a social standpoint, right? From there, we pop that thing off, let her have some fun and everything, and just monitor the situation and just continue to make sure she has stacked positive wins with other dogs. So we're gonna get started with that here now. So again, a lot of intensity in your face, this and that, right? See, it's off-putting, he's kind of grumbling and stuff a little bit. So no biggie, just supervising the situation and just seeing what we get. this is kind of what I want to see, is that she starts listening to those cues, right? This is a social dog, right? This is a dog that plays all the time when he comes here, but that energy, that intensity, that kind of dominance that they come in with, it could be super, super off-putting. We need for her to learn those cues and those signals so she can start to realize what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. Now there's obviously plenty of dogs that I could put in here right now, which we will in a minute, that would be great matches for this energy that she exhibits, and you know, it would be playful and they wouldn't be off put by it and this and that. And that's all fine and dandy, obviously, but a really important part of this process is getting her around a lot of different types of dogs, meaning that she needs to learn that not every dog is that playful, energetic, wanna rough and you know, play and all that kind of stuff for hours and hours on end, and that there are times that dogs are gonna be out that don't want anything to do with her, and she needs to learn to be okay with that without continuing to persist and pester. And that's what we're kind of teaching her by getting her around these types of dogs. What are these jumps? What is that squeak?